I'm gonna take you for a ride.
No! No!
Resident Evil.
Month 2. Alright, so we're back with another Resident Evil month. And we're going to be doing the Modern Trilogy this month. Today we're going to be doing Resident Evil 7. This game was Resident Evil's big return to survival horror, and it turned out pretty well. As much as I enjoyed most of the more action-oriented games, and believe that Resident Evil has always had action in its DNA, RE6 definitely crossed the line into too little horror, and the series lost part of its identity, and this is the game that was needed to steer the series back on track. Before we get into the rest of this, if you like survival horror, check this out. What Happens After Midnight, my action survival horror game, is available right now. You're sent to investigate the town of Night Vale and quickly find out interdimensional forces are invading our world. Hop between worlds, meet strange characters, and survive cosmic horrors once you find out what happens after midnight. Also, any feedback is greatly appreciated. Let's start off with the gameplay. The shooting is pretty good. It's methodical but not too slow to be fun, and there's a decent selection of guns that all feel good to use. There's also that block mechanic that I almost never used. It was okay, I guess. The enemies are alright, but they're not very complex, and they don't have a ton of variety. The boss fights are fairly good though. There's also some stealth horror sections where you don't have weapons and have to hide and stuff, which although they feature some memorable monsters, they're kind of generic gameplay wise. The survival horror elements are good. There's a lot of resources to gather, items to combine, and inventory management to be done, as well as a satisfying series of locks and keys that slowly open up new places to go. There are good puzzles, and although according to my definition of survival horror it's not strictly needed, I do think that puzzles make survival horror games better. The level design is good and the areas are fun to explore. Something that's pretty noteworthy about this game as well as RE8 is that for the most part the areas are ordered from best to worst, which honestly it makes sense. Not only is it good to start with a strong hook, the beginning of the game is also what most people will see of the game online. If a Let's Player just plays a little of the game, that they'll see the strongest part. And I think that's why Outlast probably did so well, is because the game had a strong intro, even though the rest of the game is kind of mid. And going back to RE7, we start out with the mansion, which is great, and we end with the boat. A lot of people will say that the boat is terrible, but even though it's definitely the worst area in the game, I still think it's fairly good. Moving on to the story, it's good, and as with most RE games, the strongest aspect of it is its characters, but this time it's a bit different. It's the antagonists who are the stars of the show. Ethan and Mia are alright, but they're definitely not RE's strongest characters. You could argue with Ethan that he's supposed to be a bit of a blank slate for the player to project themselves onto, but I think I'd still rather have a protagonist more like the other RE protagonists. The Bakers, by comparison, are oozing southern charm and charisma, and they're super fun as villains because it feels like they're having fun.
Ethan! Ethan!
Jack is very wacky and over the top, and you don't know what he's going to do next. And Lucas is hilariously sadistic. Marguerite is definitely the weakest of the three, but she's still good though. Although the villains do kind of lean into the crazy redneck stereotypes on the surface level, I think in the end they do a good job of reminding you the infected are the victims. Moving on to the aesthetics, the setting is good. I love the old southern architecture. The environments feel very lived in and real, and all the atmosphere is amplified with good sound design. There's good creature design, but when it comes to the common enemies, there's not very good aesthetic variety. The molded aren't very distinct from one another. And two extra things is that I did play part of this game in PSVR using a regular controller. I don't think they ever did a full VR version. I personally didn't find it worth putting on the headset most of the time, but it was still good for taking a better look at the environment. I also want to say that although I didn't play the Joe Baker DLC End of Zoe, I did end up watching it and really regretted not playing it. Joe is a super fun character, and it looks really fun to beat up monsters with your bare fist. Overall, this is definitely one of the better Resident Evil games, and it's a super fun return to survival horror, and I'm going to give it a 9.02. Thank you to anyone who likes, comments, or subscribes. That's it.
Welcome to the family, son.